Who dat to the Who Dat Nation? Welcome to the Dome Patrol Podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. And we have arrived to week 2 of this year's preseason, the second game of the preseason, as the New Orleans Saints will take on the San Francisco 49ers after a week of joint practices with the 49ers. The Saints will be traveling to Levi Stadium on Sunday, 7 o'clock, prime time on Fox. It's going to be an interesting game for a lot of reasons. Not because I'm expecting a slobber knocker of a game. Not expecting that. I'm actually not expecting a lot of starters to play in this game, but I would advise Dennis Allen and Clint Kubiak and just the coaching staff of the Saints as a whole. These starters need some some game time experience. Now, normally they'll use the excuse when you have joint practices. They'll use the excuse of, well, we've been practicing all week against this team. There's really no need to put the starters out there during the actual game. I understand it at one hand, but on the other hand, we need to see something here. The Saints won last week in their preseason opener against the Arizona Cardinals. Nice, good. I'm happy that they won the game, even though it doesn't count. But there's a lot to discuss about that game. There's a lot of holes in this team, and it's all on the offense. Defense, for the most part, held their end of the bargain. We got a pass rush. We saw the secondary be relatively strong throughout that game. Everything looked good defensively, offensively. The biggest bugaboo, the elephant in the room, is the offensive line. The offensive line has let us down again. I know it's just one game. I understand it. But we're going into that one game, or we went into that one game with 3 new starters on that offensive line, to a degree. Yeah, it's 3 new starters because you have Trevor Penning in a different position, so it's a new position, new starter there. We have the rookie Taliense Fuaga. He's at left tackle. And as this week went on, a couple of them got hurt. Cesar Ruiz, I think, got hurt. Nothing serious, but he was hurt. Our rookie Taliense, he got hurt with some back soreness, and he's questionable to even play this upcoming game this Sunday. And so that's a reason for concern. And the biggest concern is Trevor Penning. And look, I take no pleasure in going off on this dude. I don't like, I don't like bad mouthing my team or players on my team. It may seem like I'd like doing it, but I don't like doing it. But Trevor Penning is not it. He is officially a bust, and he's not going to get any better. And I have to ask the question to Dennis Allen and the rest of the coaching staff for the New Orleans Saints: what more you need to see? What more you need to see? He is not improving at all. You switched him over to the left side or the right side, and it's still the same results. It's just not working. It's not working. And it's all right. It's fine. Dennis Allen, Mickey Loomis, everybody who signed off on that pick last year need to come to the realization all 32 teams mess up in the draft. The team you're about to play this Sunday traded about 3 years worth of picks for a quarterback a few years ago. Trey Lance. They traded it all. They went all in on Trey Lance, only to trade him a couple of years after that because it wasn't working. They they admitted defeat. They was like, you know what? This is not gonna work. We're not gonna force it to work. It and they let it go. I respect that. And they're not the only ones to do that. Teams just say, you know what? We missed. We swung and we missed. Not the Saints. Not the Saints. We just gonna make it work. They've been doing it for years. They've done it with Peyton Turner. They've done it with oh my God, what's the other defensive tackle that we had? I think it was Davenport. They did it with Davenport. I mean, they're trying to make them out of something, knowing that this is the ceiling. You're not going to get anything out of these people. And Trevor Penning is that. It's just not there. And the sad part is, I think Trevor Penning is capable of being a really good offensive lineman in the NFL. I do believe that. It's something upstairs with him. It's something in his head. I don't know if somebody got in his head in a game and he just can't shake it, but he just cannot shake it for one reason or another. And that's a problem. That's a concern for the Saints. What are you going to do here? Now, Taliense Fuaga, we don't know how severe this back injury is. We're talking about a back. And you're talking to somebody or you're listening to somebody who's dealt with back problems for the better part of 30 years. I've had a bad back from a car accident 30 years ago, and it still bothers me. It's still, I'm not, hunched over or anything like that yet, but it still messes with me from time to time. And it's nothing you can do because it's your back. It's your back. All you can do is really massage it or take medicine or whatever, painkillers or whatever you can do, but it's no form of surgery. Any form of surgery you have, your career is over. So I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not saying that's what Taliense is experiencing, something like that. I'm just saying it could be just soreness. He's thrown into the NFL, first preseason, first training camp. He's probably tired. Them guys, offensive linemen have to bend down, the whole game, and that's a lot of weight on your body, and you bent over, and I can imagine it. Your back going to start hurting, and so it's probably that, or it could be he pulled something. Could be a strain, or it could be a little pop muscle or something. Who knows? Hopefully it's not that severe because he looked pretty decent to me. To say that was his first game in the NFL, he looked decent. I mean, he didn't allow any pressures. And so that's a win. So I'm hoping that he can bounce back from that injury. We, speaking of backs, by the way, Alvin Kamara this week also didn't practice a couple of days this week due to a back injury. A lot of people are speculating it's not the back, it's the contract. He wants, he's holding out without saying he's holding out for that new contract or whatever. I like to stay optimistic. I like to look at the positive things of life. If he hasn't came out and said it, I'm not going to speculate. If he says it's his back, I'm going to believe it's his back. I'm not going into the route of, he's playing the game. And honestly, if that's the case, he could sit down. At this point, it's either you got your deal or you have it. There's no point crying or whining about it. It is what it is. You're under contract for 2 years. It is what it is. And then you got to look at the bigger picture of it all. The Saints don't have money like that. They don't have money like that to just, okay, you want an extension? Here you go, sign this. They don't. And now, at the same time, they gave Pete Warner an extension. They gave, who else was that? It was just on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, they gave somebody else an extension as well. So it wasn't like they weren't fully capable of doing it. They just picked their battles. But Alvin Kamara wasn't a pressing need at the time. The other players were. So it made sense. But yeah, he has some back issues. So 9 times out of 10, we won't be seeing him on Sunday. But with all that being said, after the victory at the Arizona Cardinals in their opener on last Saturday night, the New Orleans Saints will look to continue their winning ways. They will be traveling from their training camp base in Irvine, California, and move a little further north up California's coast, and they will face the San Francisco 49ers at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara this Sunday night. The preseason contest, set to be broadcast on Fox, marks only the fourth time the Saints and the 49ers have faced off in the preseason, and the first time they've faced off in the preseason since 2011. And now, there are a lot of Saints 49er connections. Of course, we all know that the Saints and the 49ers used to be in the same division back in the day in the NFC West, which made no sense to me, but we used to play them twice a year, and this is prime 49ers. This is Joe Montana, Jerry Rice. Yeah, it was brutal, but the Saints used to hold their own against the 49ers, even though we lost. But we used to hold it on because we had the Dome Patrol. No, not the podcast, but the defense, man. One of the greatest defenses of all time. Unfortunately, we had one of the worst offenses of all time to complement it. But yes, we have that connection. We have Cam Jordan. He used to play for the University of California. Of course, offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak. He served as the offensive passing game specialist just this past season for the 49ers. And his younger brother, Clay Kubiak, is still there, and he was promoted to that position as offensive passing game specialist. Chase Young, our new defensive end, he played for the 49ers last year, at least half of the year. The second half of last season helped them get to a Super Bowl. Cedric Wilson Jr., our wide receiver, his father, Cedric Wilson Sr., played for the 49ers. Saints offensive line coach John Benton coached the 49ers offensive line from 2017 to 2020 under San Francisco head coach Kyle Shanahan. Benton and our senior offensive assistant, Rick Dennison, served also on the same Houston Texans coaching staff together with Shanahan under Clint Kubiak, father Gary. And so there is a big connection there as well. To quickly recap last week's game against the Arizona Cardinals, where the Saints won 16-14. Let's go over some statistics from last week's games. Our preseason leaders, if you will, if that matters or not. It really don't, but it does, if that makes any sense. Let's start with passing. The leading passer for the New Orleans Saints last week was Jake Haener. He was 9 of 13 for 107 yards, no touchdowns, but no interceptions either. Spencer Rattler comes in second, 9 of 17, 70 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions, but he did have one rushing touchdown. And our starting quarterback, if you will, Derek Carr, he was 2 for 6 for 12 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions as well. Let's stop right there for a minute, just for a second. There was a report that came out. The Minnesota Vikings had lost their draft pick, their quarterback, J.J. McCartney. And it's sad. He tore his MCL. He's out for the season. Didn't even get to play his first rookie season. That really stinks. Sorry for him. So the Minnesota Vikings went into desperation mode and trying to find a quarterback, trying to find a replacement. There was a report that came out that the Vikings got in touch with the New Orleans Saints and asked about about a possible trade for Derek Carr. Now, nothing else was said. I couldn't find nothing else about it. I figured it wasn't going to happen because Derek Carr has a no trade clause. And so that means Derek Carr would have wanted to go to Minnesota. That's the only way that trade could happen. Uh, Look, I liked Spencer Rattler. I liked Jake Hader. I, I believe one of those dudes are our future, if not both. I love them to death. I'm excited for their development. If they're starting off this good, it can only get better as they grow. But they're not getting rid of Derek Carr. Dennis Allen would rather strip butt naked and run down Canal Street uh, it, before no, that's not gonna happen, bro. He is tethered to this dude, and the Saints are tethered to him with that contract, and so it's not gonna happen. Would it bother me if it happened? No, I actually would cheer because I'm just not convinced that this guy is our quarterback of the future. That he will lead us to a division, that he will lead us to a playoff game, and definitely not a Super Bowl. And so I just don't see it in him. And after last week, I just don't see it. And I know what everybody's gonna say. It was one game. Actually, it was what, 2 drives that he was in. Yeah, it was 2 drives, but he didn't look good in either one. Nothing he did looked good. He had 2 completions, and one of them should have been an interception. It should have been. Chris Olave wrestled the ball out of the defender's hands because he threw it right to the defender. It's the little things like that. It's missing a wide open Chris Olave going down the seam when he had a linebacker on him and he had at least 2 yards on him, and he missed it. He underthrew it. That could have been intercepted. It's stuff like that. That's what I look at. And I look at these young guys. I look at Spencer Rattler. I look at Jake Hader. They look comfortable. Yes. Were they going up against the 2s and the 3s of the not Carolina, but the Cardinals? Yeah, they were. But that shouldn't matter. They also had 2s and 3s they were throwing the ball to. So that's not the issue. The issue is who looks comfortable, who looks poised, who looks like they were ready for a football game versus who wasn't. Derek Carr went out there and played like he knew that his job is secure, and that's the problem. Yeah, I as far as this game is concerned, this 49ers game with these quarterbacks, I need to see all 3 yet again. This needs to be an open competition. This should not be a battle for number 2. This should be a battle for number 1. Honestly, now we all know it's going to be Carr at the end of the day. We're not stupid, but it needs to be an open competition so we all can know. Well, forget us, so the team can know. But what do I expect? I don't expect to see Derek Carr this Sunday, but I hope to see him this Sunday rushing. Leading rusher last Saturday against the Cardinals was Jordan Mims. He had 10 carries for 38 yards. James Robinson had 7 carries for 27 yards. Jamal Williams had 6 carries for 20 yards. Spencer Rattler had 2 carries for 8 yards. Jake Hader had 1 carry for 3 yards. Alvin Kamara, 2 carries for 3 yards. And Jacob Kabodi had 1 carry for 2 yards. To note, Spencer Rattler scored a touchdown on one of his runs, which was the Saints' only touchdown throughout the game. I don't really have a gauge on the running backs. I mean, we all know Alvin Kamara is the be-all, end-all in our running back room. Coming in second is Jamal Williams. And if Kendra Miller could ever get healthy, ever get healthy, I don't know. He's another one. When I was listing rookies that we drafted that is pretty much a bust or heading towards bust territory, Kendrick Miller is in that category. He can't stay healthy. But I really don't fault him because he was hurt at TCU a lot. So you knew this going in that he was a injury prone player. Yet we still drafted him. And it shouldn't be no shock. That's why I was kind of baffled when Dennis Allen was hot as fish grease at the beginning of camp when Kendrick Miller went down. Like he was shocked that this happened. Like this is what he do. It's no shock to me. But as far as running back is concerned, yeah, they all need to be out there to see who will be behind Kamara and Williams this upcoming season. And you know we're not going to keep 5 running backs on the roster. I seriously doubt that. So there's going to be some jockeying there for position. Leading receiver last Saturday versus the Cardinals was A.T. Perry. He had 4 catches for 85 yards. 58 of that was on one throw, one catch, I should say, from Jake Hader at the end of the first half. But it was a nice throw. If he can only have stayed in balance, that would have been fire. But he was the leading receiver. Now, I like A.T. Perry. You hear a lot of reports coming out of camp that he's on the hot seat and whatnot. I don't understand why. Because every time he touched the field, that we're able to see, that I'm able to watch, he produces. So I don't understand the hate that come his way. But nonetheless, he was the leading receiver last Saturday. Coming in second was Dylan Holker, the tight end with 3 catches and 24 yards. I like him. I like him a lot. You know, he's your prototypical tight end, which is something that we need in this offense. So that was a good showing by him. Samson Nakua had 2 catches for 19 yards. Stanley Morgan Jr. had 1 catch for 13 yards. Chris Olave 1 catch for 10 yards. James Robinson 1 catch for 9 yards, and a bunch of 2s and 1s and 4s and whatever. Yeah, we didn't throw the ball fairly well, as you can see with our passing stats from our quarterbacks. And I say fairly well. We didn't just go up and down the field. Let's also keep in mind that in preseason, we don't have the full advantage of the playbook. It's not like we can really see what this offense is made of, this new and improved offense, allegedly. So that plays a part in that too. But yeah, they didn't really go up and down the field throwing the ball last Saturday. So we shall see going forward. Defensively, our leading tackler for Saturday versus the Cardinals was Monty Rice. He had 7 total tackles, 7 of them, all 7 of them were solo. RJ had 6 tackles, Hudson had 6 tackles, Willie Gay had 5 tackles, Roderick Teamer had 4 tackles, Wright had 4 tackles, Mac McCain III had 3 tackles, Kool-Aid McKinsley had 3 tackles, Jalen Ford 3 tackles, DeMarco Jackson, I'm sorry, had 3 tackles, Jordan Howden had 2 tackles, Brian Breezy had 2 tackles as well. I like the defense. I have no slander against the defense. I'm encouraged by this pass rush. I mean, you have Chase Young, you have Brian Breezy, who one of the draft picks that we actually hit on in recent memory. That's to go along with Cam Jordan. I think we've kind of figured out this pass rush, this defensive line. And then if we're able to rotate in a healthy Peyton Turner, maybe Isaac Forsky, another bust in the making, and maybe he can finally wake up and contribute to that defensive line. If we get a nice rotation going with these players, there's going to be something to deal with, man. We're looking at a top 10 defense, and I'm not whistling Dixie here. The Saints were close to a top 10 defense last year with no pass rush. So I'm encouraged. I'm very encouraged going forward. What to look out for this Sunday against the 49ers? That offensive line is the number one issue. That's going to probably be our kryptonite for the entire season. They just can't put it together for some strange reason. And I'm not really mad at the Saints for this per se, because honestly, I mentioned this on the last week's show of the Dawn Patrol that those are first round picks up and down that offensive line. First round picks with Tallahassee, with Penning, with McCoy, with Ruiz. These are first round picks, and they traded up into the third round to get Nick Salivari, and so they have invested high in this offensive line. Honestly, as far as the draft is concerned, it just hasn't paid off. And if you want to go deeper back, he's no longer with the team. It was a first round pick with Andrews Pete, and so on and so forth. Ryan Ramczyk, that was a monkey wrench, which I don't understand how that became a monkey wrench. You said at the end of last season that he probably wasn't going to play this season. And all of a sudden, before camp, everybody was shocked and surprised that, he's not going to play. And I'm talking about the coaching staff here. Y'all said this. We didn't say, y'all told us this. And now you're surprised, and now it's like, I don't know. It's like you disturbed the ant pile, and they just running all over the place, and can't figure out this offensive line. You should have had this in place, regardless. Had somebody in place instead of Trevor Penning, instead of throwing somebody over there who wasn't doing good in his natural position. But you want to teach him an entire new position and expect it to click for him. I don't understand the logic, but I hope and pray some way they get it figured out and get it figured out soon, because the regular season is 2 weeks away after this game. So clock's ticking. The clock is ticking. The second thing to watch out for is the quarterback battle for the backup position for that number 2. We all know that it's going to be Derek Carr at the number 1. It's all a pipe dream to think that Jake Hader or Spencer Rattler will outperform Derek Carr. Well, it's not a pipe dream that they'll outperform him, because I think they will do that every week. But as far as Dennis Allen and the New Orleans Saints organization is concerned, it's not going to happen. No matter how good Rattler and Hader play. So their battle will be for that number 2 spot. And once again, I don't think the Saints are going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the active roster, which is going to be devastating, because you're probably going to try to sneak one onto the practice squad, and they're not going to be on that practice squad long. You can bank it, especially if it's Spencer Rattler. I'll bet vital parts of my anatomy to the fact that they would not be on that practice squad for no longer than 2 days. And that's being kind. And so, that's going to be a tough decision in the next week or so. So that's the second thing. I really don't have a third thing other than the wide receivers, I guess. Who's going to be that number 2, that number 3? Some may argue who's going to be the number 1. But we need to see how these wide receivers will stand up. But that all links up with the quarterback. They all got to be on the same page, man. The play call and get these guys some opportunities to run these routes and catch these balls, But overall, I'm excited for the game. I'm it's football. It's New Orleans Saints. I don't care if it's preseason. I just want to see some football from my squad. This is a long-standing rivalry. It's still there. It's still there from the old NFC West days. Every time the Saints and the 49ers meet, it's always a good game. And not so many times in the preseason, as I stated earlier. But you know, they always go at it. How can we forget that epic playoff game from about what that was 12 years ago, I think it was. uh I mean, a game, and then that game in the dome when everybody scored. It was just a scoring fest. Defenses took a break that game, and it all came down to a field goal at the end. But they always have epic matchups. You won't see a fraction of that Sunday, but it's still exciting to see the Saints go up against the 49ers. It brings back so many memories of watching the Who-Dats take on the 49ers. But I would love to know, what do you think is our biggest need to that needs to be addressed, I should say, before the season starts? Is it the offensive line? Is it the quarterback? Is it wide receiver? Is it something on defense that I'm missing? I feel that the defense is solid, but you may see something that we need improvement on. I would love to know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for this show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube and like this video if you don't mind. Also, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Dome Patrol here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this preview of week 2 of the preseason. I'm about to say postseason. The preseason, when the Saints take on the 49ers this Sunday night, 7 o'clock on Fox. Until then, I'm going to be screaming through the streets, "Who dat?"